pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start tonight, I have something I'd like to address with the council. I've been approached by citizens who informed me that council members have been using their cell phones as a form of communication during the city council meeting. If council members are sending electronic messages between themselves regarding the issue that the council is discussing, I feel that violates the open meeting law. Because those present have the right to listen to the discussion. If a council member is communicating with someone not in the room regarding the issue that is being discussed, that is rude, but might also be violating the spirit of the open meeting law. Because our role is to be discussing the issue with the rest of the council. Council members, I would ask that you please shut off and put your cell phones away during council meetings. Do this on your own. I don't want to hear from the public again in regard to this subject. Protect the city of Willmar from any possible litigation in regard to the same. Thank you. Are there any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Go ahead and vote.
That motion carries 8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. We'll move on to the consent items. Judy?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight on the consent agenda is for your approval, the city council minutes of November 20th, city council minutes of special meeting of November 28th, amended city council minutes of October 2nd, planning commission meeting minutes of November 21st, Willmar Municipal Utilities Commission meeting minutes of November 27th, a resolution to approve the OSG grant for planning and design stormwater improvements near Kennedy Elementary School, a resolution for equitable cost sharing for publicly owned nursing facilities, Kanuai County Pheasants Forever lawful gambling application, a resolution as a premise permit for Willmar Baseball Booster Association at Willmar Indoor Golf, a resolution for Safe Assure Consultant Safety Program Agreement, the accounts payable report from November 18th through November 22nd. For council's information, the building report for October of 2023, the Convention and Visitors Board Board minutes of October 17th, Central Community Transit Operation Board minutes of September 26th, and an appointment to Park and Recreation Board.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
Can I remove I?
Yes, ma'am. All right. Roll call.
That motion carries 8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Councilmember Osmus.
On I, that is adopting a resolution to approve the premise permit and direct the city clerk to forward the permit to the Gambling Control Board, having to do with the golf simulator, I believe, at the Uptown Mall. And the Willmar Baseball Booster Association is making the application to the Gambling Control Board. I'm just curious what this place is last council meeting, we approved a liquor license. And I get like Top Golf, where you go and like maybe you have a whole group of people and they hit balls out into the course and with the net and everything, and they have a restaurant. But I'm just trying to understand what's the relationship with the Willmar Boosters, if anybody knows, with this golf simulator, and I'm not understanding where the alcohol and the gambling comes in at this business.
Councilmember Osmus, I'm not exactly sure myself their relationship, but apparently the Willmar Baseball Boosters Association approached Willmar Indoor Golf that they would like to sell like pull tabs and things at the establishment. The liquor, they are planning to also serve liquor. That's what we approved the last time. And the liquor board, the state board, they have been out and inspected it and met with them, and, they've gone through all the approvals on that end, too. So they're still in the construction phase. They're not opening at this point, anyway.
Okay. I didn't know if it was raffles or, yeah, you say it's pull tabs or what they were doing, playing bingo. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Of what, okay, for the gambling license. Okay.
Anything else?
Did you want to add something? You know something about it?
It'll be pull tabs. They'll have a machine there, just like they have at Grizzlies, just like they have at Holiday Inn and Ruff's, up at the Oaks. So
Okay.
it was between them and the 100-Yard Club, and they went with the baseball boosters.
Okay.
It's a fundraiser.
Got it.
They have to pay rent to have the machine there, so it's a moneymaker for the establishment too. And then the state gets their money, so,
For the pull tab machine.
for sales tax.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious what it was going to be, and that we were just approving things and not knowing what this business was. Okay. Pardon?
Thank you for doing that.
Okay. I just wanted some information. I'll make a motion to pass that.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Roll call.
That motion carries 8 ayes, 0 nays.
Next is the open forum, and we have one person who signed up to speak, and that's Earl Knutson. Earl, you have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Earl Knutson. I live at 1400 Willmar Avenue Southeast. That's Independence Place. I'm here as a member of the Willmar Area Climate Action Group, a group that's been meeting and advocating for 5 years. My purpose tonight is to recommend that in construction of new city buildings or in remodeling of existing city buildings, a high priority be placed on environmentally friendly heating systems. Specifically, we call attention to air-sourced heat pumps as a heating method. We note that the Willmar Municipal Utilities advertises a reduced electric rate for heat pump operation during the heating season. With this reduced rate, we calculate that the operating cost for heat pumps will be some 15% less than for gas furnaces, except for the few coldest days. More importantly, the emission of the greenhouse gas carbon dioxide would be lowered by 50% or more as compared to gas furnaces. This will benefit my great-grandchildren and yours, since there will be less need to cope with a degraded climate in the years beyond 2050. I do want to acknowledge that for the 60 years that natural gas has been available in Willmar, heating with gas has been a blessing in many ways. The cost has been bearable, gas furnaces have been reliable, and we've learned to live with carbon monoxide monitors. It's only in the past 10 or 15 years that the dark side of heating with gas, namely the emission of carbon dioxide, has become known. Now the negative climate consequences for our great-grandchildren call out for us to switch away from heating with natural gas. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. Next is the Truth and Taxation hearing, and I'll call on Tom Odens, our Finance Director, to start it out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight is a public hearing for the Truth and Taxation, where the public can provide input on the 2024 tax levy and the city budget. There will be two considerations after the close of the public hearing. The first would be to establish the 2024 tax levy and at $10,185,308. The second will be to set the budget for the city at $67,692,360. That is the overarching, that includes the general operating fund, all of our special revenue funds, our debt service funds, as well as our wastewater treatment plant. So this is our budget calendar. The budget calendar began back in July when departments started compiling their 2024 requests for next year. On September the 18th, the mayor's proposed budget was presented, and it was adopted at $10,574,586. That amount was then sent on and certified to the county auditor, and it was sent out to all the citizens and businesses of Willmar for their proposed tax statements. And tonight's discussion will be on the city portion of the tax only. If there's a budget passed tonight, we then certify by the end of the year to the county auditor and then also to the state of Minnesota our final tax levy and budget. This slide shows the city of Willmar has increased our tax capacity about $1.439 million since 2023. So this reflects a couple different things. It's actually going to be our new construction in the city of Willmar as well as market value increases. And those market value increases are based on sales of real estate in Willmar. So this just shows the tax base of the city of Willmar has grown. And this just shows history back to 2013. And then here is a combination of the history of all. You put the city of Willmar along with the other taxing authorities, that'd be the county, the city, the schools, and then the HRA and Mid-Minnesota and EDC to develop an overall rate that would be on the tax statement. So for the city portion of the levy, for 2024, we are proposing an increase up to 47.229 or an increase in the mill rate of 1.263 out of our general fund. The debt service rate is going to remain right around 3%, 2.969. And what this represents is our future city hall debt service payment. And then the next column is our street improvement project. And that is proposed to increase to 4.283 mils to cover the street improvement bonds of 2022 and 2023 for a total tax capacity rate estimated at 54.481. And this slide is just for your information. This is a combination of all the cities within all the cities within Ohio County. Just for your information, not all cities have the same tax base, and not all cities offer the same services. So it's just an informational slide for you tonight. So the city levy. The proposed tax levy is currently at $10,185,308. This is a decrease of $389,278 since the preliminary adopted budget in September. Overall, this is an increase of $996,318 from 2023's levy, or an estimated mill rate increase of 1.448. I do want to highlight a couple of key takeaways. The city is continuing to invest in the street improvement program. we're putting money aside for a future city hall, and we are continuing our capital improvement program as well as balancing our budget. As we've mentioned in work sessions and council meetings in the past, we've averaged since 2017 an average of $1.235 million in a deficit. So this budget we're proposing tonight to be adopted would be a balanced budget and no deficit spending. This is the conclusion of the presentation. This is a public hearing where the public is allowed input, but there are two considerations to act on. One, as I mentioned earlier, is to set the levy at $10,185,308, and the second is to adopt the 2024 budget of $67,692,360. So what makes that up, as I mentioned, is the general operating at $21.4 million, the capital improvements, as we've gone over in work sessions and council meetings in the past, at $18.9 million. That's including our street program, the civic center roof projects, storage shed and umbrellas at the aquatic center, downtown streetlights, lighting at the fire station and the public works garage, as well as door replacements, vehicle replacements for Parks and Rec, Public Works, Fire Department, and Police Department. Our special revenue funds at $7.3 million is going to include our local option sales tax debt service, or our fund there, airport operations, Main Street, capital improvement, community investment fund, and public works reserve. Our debt service fund at $4.9 million, which is going to be our street improvement bonds, our civic center refrigeration bond, and our local option sales tax bond debt service. And then our enterprise fund, which is our wastewater treatment plant at $15 million. The $15 million does also include their payments for their loans that they have out in their structures. So, and also just as one quick reminder, valuation questions. This is about the tax levy. The valuations questions would be addressed and you'd have an opportunity to be heard at the local Board of Appeals, which are held in the spring. So. About the city levy only.
Right. Thank you, Tom. I'll open the hearing for the public to speak. I would ask that when you come up to speak, that you give your name and address. So it's open to the public. Hi, Shelley.
Hello, Michelle, but I go by Shelley Headland. I live at 1801 Southwest 6th Street in Willmar. And I wrote a letter or an email this afternoon to the full mayor and council, so I don't know if I need to get very detailed. But I was basically saying that I was opposed to an increase in the levy and the city budget based on how much our property taxes have increased the past few years. And also the recent school levy that was approved also, the municipal utility rates have gone up so much. I'm not as concerned about myself as I am for other residents of Willmar who I wonder if they can continue to afford all these tax increases. So I guess basically I'm just objecting to the increase, wondering if it could stay the same or not increase quite as much as being proposed. And I've had some communication with Tom Butterfield about this, and I know you had some ideas, your own ideas for increasing it less than what's being proposed, and I was in favor of what you had proposed. So basically just saying that I appreciate the opportunity to speak at a public hearing to express my views. I don't know that what I'm saying is going to be voted in, but I appreciate the ability to speak out about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Anybody else?
Ron Christensen, 1912 Richland Avenue Southwest in Willmar. Good to be here with all of you. I want to start out by thanking you all for serving in an elected capacity, the 8 of you and the mayor. It's not always an easy job. Sometimes it's thankless. But it's not sought after job also because the last election we witnessed nobody opposing anybody on the council. The mayor was opposed, but nobody in the council. That's not good for a city. It's a bad sign as it takes on the appearance that everything that the council is doing is okay. Sitting in the council sometimes can be a thankless job. The 9 of you were elected to represent your tax-paying constituents in each of your wards and the city in general. Once again, your job is to represent we the people / the tax-paying citizen. One of your many duties is to pass a budget that is presented by the mayor. The mayor gets his annual budget information from the administrator, and she in turn gets it from the department heads. Very rarely are staff recommendations, administrator recommendations on the budget ever challenged by the council. Very rarely. Every year you are told that you must set the budget at the highest number recommended, as you can never increase it after that, but you can decrease it, meaning cutting spendings in some areas. I can't remember the council ever lowering the budget after that point. I'm here representing many, maybe hundreds of people that won't show up at a council meeting because they don't trust government at any level, and they feel they won't have any impact on any council issues that are determined. I, and along with them, are recommending that next year's budget be set the same as last year's, or that you cut the presented budget by 5%. And all of you and I know that it can be cut by 5%. Everybody in the business sector, retail sector, and people living on their own have had to cut their budgets because of the ongoing inflation. You, the council, has the power to tell the administration, or the administrator and all department heads to make that cut and live with it. But you would even attempt to do that? The cost of government is way too high and getting higher every year. You keep asking us for more money that we don't have. Spending cuts must start now, as every business and homeowner in Willmar has had to deal with cutting spending in their own budgets. Your overspending means that businesses and individuals will have to cut their budgets. You could start by not putting $500,000 aside every year for a new city hall that is not needed, and by prolonging the life of vehicles, which the city has many. I'm sure you could find other areas to cut if you just dig into the budget, do your due diligence, and look for those line items that can be cut. It's in your hands. Will you start to represent we the people? Or are you going to represent staff and administrator recommendations? Excuse me. My personal feeling is that you will go along with staff recommendations because you always do. I've never seen this council challenge staff recommendations. It's kind of like the power of suggestion. You drive down First Street and you see a sign at McDonald's, it's their special of the day. People go in and they buy that special. Well, you, the council and mayor, are subject to the power of suggestion every time staff brings a recommendation. I would hope that you challenge it and cut this budget. We can't afford it, folks. We don't need a city hall. The one we have is plenty of space, no engineering department. And when I go into City Hall, and I do many times as a construction, you walk 15 feet into the door, outside door, and there's a glass wall with another door that's usually open. 15 more feet, and you come up on a glass wall with a locked door and a counter with a hole in it about this size, so you can speak through it and hand documents through it. It's a lockdown facility. When I want to speak to somebody at City Hall, they don't allow me to go in even though I've been in Willmar all my life. They know who I am. They come out in the lobby and meet me, which I think is ridiculous, very impersonal. Again, I want to thank you for serving and for listening to me, but please consider cutting this budget and listening to we the people. I'll sit and see what happens. Thank you.
You're on. Anybody else?
I'm Mike Peterson. I own Mike's Small Engine here in town, and a lot of you know that. And I just agree with most of what Ron just said, and I don't know the aspects of the budget and you know, the ins and outs of the government like he does. But every one of us in today's inflation rates and everything, I mean, most people, most businesses are hurting. Our tax rates are through the roof. I mean, my business taxes are almost unaffordable now. We can't afford more taxes. Every budget, every city or every individual, every business has to live within their means and live within a budget. There is no reason that the city can't do the same. We all have to cut our budgets. You know, there's lots of things that I would like to do as a business owner. My building needs improvements. My trucks need replaced. There's lots of things I need to do. They're not going to happen because it's not in the budget. There are lots of things at this council. I don't know exactly what needs to be cut, but there are things that need to be cut to get the budget down to last year's level so there is no more tax increases. It just, we the people cannot afford any more tax increases in this town. Thank you for listening to me. I hope it's considered.
Anybody else want to speak? Anybody else want to speak? If not, I'll close the hearing.
Mr. Mayor, before you close the hearing, I do have a letter.
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry.
This letter is from Kevin Halliday. It says, I know these figures show a fair increase in estimated market value, but if the county raises most properties up a similar percentage, it should not affect the bottom total. If all residential property goes up 10%, the share the pie concept should keep the total tax balanced with prior years.
Is that it?
And that is in.
Okay. Again, if there's nobody else wishing to speak, I'll close the hearing and open it up to the council. Audrey?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. I think the council has spent a fair amount of time since we were given the budget reviewing this, and I'm just wondering if we can review for the public what we have reduced. Where we started at and where we are again now today, and some of the reductions that were done. And then also, I think it would be fair for the public to know that we refer to this as a balanced budget, but that there still is a plan for us to use some dollars out of a fund to help fund the CIP. And so I wondered if you could address those things for the public to understand that we have looked at this, we have made cuts, we have worked to try to trim as we could. So I would appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you, Councilmember. Since our preliminary budget was adopted and proposed in September, there has been a reduction of $389,000 from in the budget. And that's a combination of going back to department heads and other directors and their staff looking for ways to cut out of their budgets. So everybody, almost all departments have a little piece of it. So a lot of little pieces added up over time. So we were able to cut almost $400,000, $389,000. The capital improvement program, you are correct. Out of the general operating levy, we're proposing $350,000 to go towards our capital improvement program. of the total of cash out of that would be just over $1.1 million. The balance of that is proposed to come out of the Community Investment Fund, which in the past had gone towards debt service of our street improvement bonds. So that would be helping supplement our capital improvement plan. So only $350,000 will be coming from the tax levy, but we're still able to continue our capital improvement plan and investing in the community with other needs. Was there another question I'm missing?
No, I think you covered those. But the other two things that I was thinking about was our compensation study.
Yep.
And then also the request from the auditors for us to not have departments running in a deficit, if you would address those two.
Okay, yes, the wage compensation study, it has not been adopted by the council yet. It is in here in the budget for staff salaries for 2024. That would bring us into compliance with our pay equity. So it's something that will be coming before the council, I would assume, here in the next meeting or two. The last is, the city of Willmar has been operating in a deficit budget, and what that means is we're spending more money than we're taking in. So we're spending down our reserve account or our savings account. That's been happening since 2017. It's been an average about $1.23 million every year. So we're at the point in our reserve account now where we don't want to go any lower. There are guidelines. As of our last audit at the close of 2022, we're at about a 44% reserve balance, and we do not want to drop below 40%. So it has been council direction to reduce our reserves. We're just at the point now where we don't feel like we want to go any lower.
Justin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Nelson mentioned the pay equity piece, and that had a significant impact on the budget proposal this year. Could you or another member of staff explain what happens if we're not in compliance with pay equity?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Pay equity is done every other year for public entities like we are. And to be in compliance, there's many components, and I wouldn't even begin to do the math because it's all done by the state. But if you don't pass pay equity, then you have a chance to improve. And we've told them that we're working on this compensation classification study to try to get everything in line. And the scale that we've come up with would do that. What I understand from the person that's doing our consult for this project has said that it's about $10,000. You get fined for not being in pay equity, and then you have chance then again to get into compliance. So they give you a chance to improve, but there can be dollars assessed to it. So we just have to be sure that, we don't want to add to what we owe. We'd like to make sure, and just to be fair and to be, make sure that we're paying people equitably and fairly. That's why that whole law exists. So we want to make sure that we're in compliance with that.
Thank you, Laura. That's Julie.
I also would just like to comment for the listening public that when we talk about that we've dipped into our savings since 2017, the reason for that was for street improvements and a concentrated effort to improve our streets, because that was told to us loud and clear from the public that that's what they wanted. They wanted to have the streets fixed. And so that's where the concentrated effort has gone to. And even for the 800,000 increase in the utilities that we had talked about a month ago, that was also because of the infrastructure that was going to have to happen because of street improvements. And that's why they had to raise their levy. So that's where the money's going. And we had fallen way behind in our street improvements over the years. And now we are in this council, the unfortunate position to play catch up. And so that's where the increases are coming from. And it's going to take us, 15 years? 20?
Probably closer to 20 now.
20 years, because we did cut back a little, again, on this year's budget. that, as we heard at the work session last week, we had some citizens that came from a neighborhood that had, the whole neighborhood had signed a petition, presented it to administration, that their road was supposed to get done in 2024. We had eliminated that to cut back on the budget, and they were put off to 2025. So that is some of the cutting we've had to do and the juggling we've had to do with the budget. And we feel that this was the minimum that we could do for street repairs. And as Administrator Valiant pointed out, that if every one of those little bits puts us back a little bit more in trying to play catch up to get all of the roads repaired.
Audrey?
Just one more question to follow up on Councilmember Osmus's comment. The sheet that you presented had a street debt in there for next year of $800,672. Does that reflect the reduction that we did last week?
Good question. It does not, though that figure is to pay for the bond of
The bond
2022 and the bond of 2023.
Okay.
So next year's street improvements would be going out for bond as well. So then that would take into the 2025 levy.
Thank you.
So that would, yep.
Any other questions, council? If not, I'm looking for a resolution approving the 2024 tax levy.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the 2024 tax levy at $10,185,308. Dollars.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion or an introduction of a resolution and a second. Any other questions? Comments? Audrey, I can only contact Audrey.
Thank you. Mayor Reese. This has been a difficult year as far as the budget. I think we have also expressed concern about the calendar, and hopefully we'll do some things different next year for the council to have a complete look at it prior to just being told that we were looking at a 15% increase. And so spent a lot of time on this and taken a lot of looks at what can we do. Also understand that we can't run our departments. Our auditors reminded us that we can't have $1 million deficits in departments that we've had close to for a couple of years, that we need to fix that. And I think the reality is that we are playing catch up, but this year to pay for some things and to correct some things that hadn't been done in the past, but I don't think we're quite done yet either. And I don't think that reducing this one this year will just push off a maybe larger increase next year. And so I do believe we've worked hard on this. I do believe we've looked for reductions. We've challenged staff to review things. We looked at vehicles. We looked at lots of different things. We've had multiple meetings. And so I will be voting yes for this reluctantly, but I think it is a necessity for our community as it continues to grow that we are brave enough to do what this community needs to.
Thank you. No other comments? Roll call.
That motion carries 7 ayes, 1 nay. Councilmember Butterfield cast the nay vote.
All right. Looking for a resolution approving the mayor's budget 2024.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any comments? Questions? Roll call.
That motion carries 7 ayes, 1 nay. Councilmember Butterfield voting no.
All right. Thank you for showing up and speaking up. We'll go back to our regular business and consider a resolution to award agricultural land lease. Kyle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. Tonight before you is a resolution to award agricultural land leases for 2024 through 2026. The city has reviewed and updated its available parcels for agricultural use. Approximately 545 acres have been identified for that use and have been included in the bid packet. On Wednesday, November 15th, bids were opened. The city received 9 bids for various different tracts and rights of ways throughout the available acres. The city has contacted each of the high bidders and to confirm that they are a responsible bidder, able to perform, and will remain in compliance with the specifications of the contract. So tonight, we're looking for council approval of the resolution and for staff to enter into those agreements for the next several years, for the next 3 years. For the budget, it's approximately $101,000 that the city will receive annually for those leases, and split roughly 50-50 between the industrial park fund and then the airport fund as well. I will stand for any questions.
Tom?
Do we have something in the lease where if we sell land, we have to go back and pay back if they?
Yes, that is identified in the example document that was in your packet. There is language in there for if the city does sell land for future use that we would pay back those rents.
Okay. No, I mean the cost of, putting down fertilizer like on the last one.
Yep, I would continue to bring those back to council case by case. In those particular circumstances, they're unique to each instance. Ideally, if we're able to sell land to future development, we would like to do that before any of that work is done in the field.
Justin?
Thank you. Continuing on with Councilmember Butterfield's line of questioning there, is that something that you could notify us of when you're bringing us a piece of land that's currently being leased?
Absolutely.
I feel like I do my best to try to keep track of where that is, but sometimes it would be helpful to have a reminder.
Yep, absolutely. And just for your knowledge as well, the last time these land bids were sent out, the city had approximately 800 acres of land that the city was leasing. So we've sold right around 300 acres of land half of that was the rail industrial park, but the city is selling off its land for development, so that is good news.
Make a motion to approve the leases.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Audrey?
I had asked the question before, but I'm just curious. The rents are split between the industrial park and airport funds. That has been a practice.
Correct.
Is there a reason that has been a practice?
Correct, yes. The reason is approximately half the land surrounds the airport and half the land is in the current industrial park. And so those funds were split between basically proximity to those locations. The right of way, the rows that are the tracks that the parcels that we lease off around the airport, they're immediately adjacent to the airport and they could have direct impact to airport operations, farming inside the airport or haying inside the airport. So those funds get moved to to the airport fund. If there's direction from council to move those funds to another fund, we can certainly look at that.
Just curious, and in the spirit of looking for funds.
Yep.
The airport has its own fund and the industrial park has when we sell land, et cetera, too. And I know we are using those funds for a couple different things. So I was just curious about that. I didn't know how long that had been the practice, so.
Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we changed the policy a few years ago. They have to pay the rent before they go into the field, right?
Correct, I believe, well, in the example, it is February, when leases are, when payments would be due for the year.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Not, roll call.
That motion carries 8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
The next item, council members, you are aware of an evaluation of performance of our city administrator, Leslie Valiant, was conducted during closed session on October 23rd, 2023. We reviewed a summary of her performance evaluation at the council meeting on November 6th. However, specific salary adjustments were not discussed and approved. We will now discuss any salary increases in open session. I would like to make a recommendation that we give Ms. Valiant a 3% pay increase based on her performance. I will entertain a motion of the following: that the performance of City Administrator Valiant is satisfactory and that the City Administrator's salary be increased by 3% effective as her work anniversary date of July 19th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Questions? If there are none, roll call.
That motion carries 8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Anybody have community pride?
Mayor, could I interject here? Thank you very much for your vote of confidence in me, but I also want to ask to have I'm going to put you to work again next Monday. So I'd like to have a work session next Monday, and it would be including the broadband discussion, because we want to bring you up to date on what that's going on there. The City Hall, again, of course. And then an update on the local option sales tax, where we are with that. And then also the EDC rebranding question. That's what would be on the work session next week.
Okay.
And I'd like, if we could start early, but if we could start at 5:30, that would be helpful. But that's up to you.
Yes.
And then place to be determined.
Okay.
I think we're going to try to be at the auditorium. Seems to work the best.
At the,
MUC, at the Willmar audit,
Okay.
Willmar Utilities.
okay. Thank you. All right. Any community pride announcements?
Is that
Mayor?
okay? Everybody in favor?
Is it 5?
Yes.
5:30?
Everybody in favor? 5:30?
I would rather see it 6.
6 works better for me, too.
6 is good.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate
works.
that.
Thank you. Again, community pride announcements. Mike?
I noticed that law enforcement had a busy weekend, and I'd just like to thank them for the extra work that they put in this weekend for our safety.
Anything else? Otherwise, we're going to go into closed session. This portion of the regular meeting of the City Council will be closed pursuant to Minnesota statutes, Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3. including the discussion in closed session. The following real property will be discussed in the closed session. 95-872-2350.
Just wait.
I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
May I ask who seconded that motion?
What's that?
Bailey?
Rick, did you second it?
I did.